Check, 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 check.
To the Facebook page, you say.
And YouTube. And we'll do our best here. Let's turn this down.
You turned those lights on and now I'm yawning. I don't know if that's
correlation. Oh, yeah.
But it's great. That's a great picture.
I know who took that picture.
Yeah.
All right. So live, let's see where we are. Look at that.
Here we are. Fantastic.
Turn the audio on your computer. Let's see if the audio is working.
Okay.
Check, check, check.
Yep. Oh, well. All right. Yeah, we're live, Michael.
All right. Now check the Facebook stream real quick.
Now we're going to check the Facebook stream.
Stand by, ladies and gentlemen.
This is
How
what
do you like
behind
that picture I chose.
behind it's a good picture. This is what happens
reload.
behind the scenes. You're checking things constantly. It looks like we're live. Yeah, and we're live here, and I imagine the audio worked. Because it's your phone.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
How about that?
So we're live streaming to YouTube and Facebook at the same time using two different programs.
Yeah, exactly.
Two different audio setups, two different camera setups.
All right. You ready for your intro?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Well, howdy, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in here. 12:32. That's pretty darn good. We're pretty close for just winging this.
That's good.
So today, not only do I have my brother-in-law with me, but Matt Kelly here has his own production company here in Baltimore named Human Being Productions. And you guys have done the video work for, I think, all maybe except one. No, you've done all my professional Guitargate guitar courses.
Oh.
All the YouTube stuff I've done myself and Facebook stuff, but all the actual stuff that's on the site, he's done, which is why it looks and sounds so good.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to talk about today, I'm a little clipped, aren't I?
Your head's a little cut off.
Watch this. See that? So what I wanted to talk about today is how important it is for musicians to have good video and good audio, how they can get started if they have nothing, and how much it really costs if they want to get the good stuff.
Oh yeah, and
because this is your world.
Yeah, and it's a very big can of worms, and you can spend not a lot of money and get a lot of things done, or you can spend a lot of money and get a lot of things done. It's just depending on it depends on where you want your stuff to go at the end, and like what is the value of that footage, basically.
Well, let's start with let's say cover bands, right? Mm-hmm. For the most part, if you're trying to get gigs these days, if you're trying to get your stuff shop around, there is no more press kits. There's no more real EPK. You really just need a banging video with good audio, because that's what's being sent to whoever's doing the booking.
Yes.
And they want one thing that shows what you are, and because you pretty much only have their attention for like a minute.
Yeah, and a fan recording your set for you, albeit very kind and an incredible compliment, is not necessarily something shot with how is this going to be received by venues. Kind of like that's not the top of mind when it's being recorded. Yeah. I'm having fun right now. I want to capture the moment is what's happening, which is good. But if you're, say, something like a cover band, it's really important that you have a video with really good sound, multiple angles, and really showing the dynamics of your band is a very important thing to do. But ultimately, and the thing that deserves 95% of your attention for something like that would be ensuring that whoever is running the sound is capturing good audio for that, and that part of that audio that's being captured also involves like the room, so that it doesn't just sound like it's just this signal coming out of a board.
Yeah, that is true, and it's hard to do because a lot of us, when we're playing gigs around town, we're not hiring the sound people.
No.
And so the sound is, maybe that you are, but a lot of times the sound is provided, or whoever's running the event hires the sound for all the bands that are playing, and maybe that person does know how to, do some live audio out, because I'm assuming what you don't want is whatever's coming out of the front of house.
No.
Because the front of house is being mixed to the room or the open air, not to whoever's listening to an earbuds on Facebook or whatever.
Exactly, and that's where you'll get something where your vocals are coming in at like -5 dB, and then everything else is coming in just like I don't know, like negative 40. You know what I mean? It's just so low that there isn't really a way to salvage it in post production. So one of the something to keep in mind when you're thinking about like these, the people that are working the soundboard and whatnot, is your good sound is not their responsibility, because they're there to make the room sound good. They're there to they're there to make the room sound good. All they do is talk to bands all the time, some of which know a lot, some of which don't know very much, and I think it breeds a certain personality where
disdain for the bands.
I don't want to call it a disdain, but what I will say is, when I go to shoots, there's a big difference in how you're received from a sound person based off of saying, "Oh, can I patch into your board? No, I don't have any of the cables that could make that happen." That's on the low reception range. And then if you show up with like a little shaving bag full of every type of adapter that could ever exist, you know how to determine whether or not you need phantom power for your recorder and things like that. If you go there understanding your equipment and understanding what you're asking of them, 9 times out of 10 they will make a greater effort to ensure that what you're getting is valuable and can be used.
All right, so let's break that down a little bit. So let's say I'm a band that is playing some big show, and we think this would be a great opportunity for good audio and good video.
Yeah.
If you can, I would imagine, see if you can find out who the sound person is and reach out to them ahead of time.
Yes, absolutely.
Find out what gear, and is that typically something that's well received?
I think that it is something. Yeah, it is something that is generally well received, and it's something that you'll have varying degrees of success. Some people will be very responsive. Some people might not be so responsive. There may be some venues where it's like you're gonna have to go there Tuesday morning when the person is going through their just like cleaning up the space kind of day.
Yeah.
Like those are the things that people do to make sure that the recordings that they're getting is a quality. That's part of my job as a producer for video production, to guarantee that we didn't do all this work for nothing.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. So if someone either A, doesn't have the gear or the adapters, or 2, know what they need to bring, if they have a big shoot coming up or a big gig and they're like, man, I really want good audio and video, if they hire someone like you, chances are you've been in the area, you probably know the people that are working.
Yeah, we might already know the sound people. We might already know the room.
You're gonna call ahead of time.
Yeah.
You're gonna find out what board they're working with, and you're gonna talk to them, hopefully, and they'll be amiable because hopefully you know them. I mean, we're in Baltimore. Most people here know us. It's pretty
small town.
It's pretty small town.
Small town.
Which is good and bad. But then hopefully you can get good audio. But what do you say to them when it's just like, because literally I don't know how this works. So I'm genuinely curious. They're not gonna mix a separate mix for you because they're mixing a live band, right? And so how does it work as far as like if they push up the faders on the vocals, but that's not what works for you in the video? Can you fix that in post? Is it really depend on what gear they have and whether they can give you the stems? I mean, I literally don't know.
Yeah,
how this
no,
works.
they can. It depends on how skilled the sound person is.
Yeah.
Because not all sound people are created equal, and you'll come in contact with some sound people that the best they can do is take their headphone jack, put in a splitter, and give you a 1/8 inch out into whatever, like into your iPhone.
And you get what you get.
And you know what? Might work. But also that's the headphones that the sound guy is like, already, and most of the time you're going to have events where you probably don't have pre-programmed band settings for each song. So they're going to be riding levels anyway. There are some sound people that can give you like just the line feeds where it all sounds kind of tinny and boxed in, or they you know, a lot of good sound guys will put room microphones in, will capture room sound as well and feed that into my signal.
Yeah.
And those people are awesome. And when you don't have that person, and when you don't have that option, generally most of the audio recorders that you'll have will have a left-right microphone on them that if just make like the $15, $20 investment, get a light stand and a sandbag so that it doesn't fall over.
There's that.
But so, for instance, an H4n or an H5n Zoom recorder, those have XLR inputs, and it has a little screw in the bottom that you can screw into a light stand.
Right.
You can raise that up. You can get that kind of above, you know, the crowd and the people talking, and then from that you can also plug in an XLR or a 1/4-inch cable from the board, and you can get your sound. That is the shortest path to having good sound, is that setup. If you're gonna start anywhere, I'd say that's where you start. Get yourself a good portable recorder that has both XLR or 1/4-inch inputs,
right,
and a built-in microphone. You use that built-in microphone for the room tone if possible, and then you use the XLRs to get the other signals. Now, there's even there are versions of this where you know that the band is kind of honed in as far as the sound is concerned, but you know that the vocals are going to be different. And I've definitely fed the band into my left channel and the vocals into my right channel before.
Right.
So that you know, in a perfect world, you have a recording device that can take just as many inputs as they plugged in for their levels.
Right.
But we can't do that. So you have to kind of do. You have to prioritize. Basically, sometimes the drums being separate are more important. You know, it's important to remember that. Another pro tip that this happens 99% of the time is if you're going to set up all your sound, you're going to make sure the levels are good. They're going to send you some house music to make sure it sounds right. You're going to be there for the sound check, and it's going to sound right. Everything's going to seem perfect. The band's going to start playing, but now the band is playing live. Everybody just got louder.
Right.
So the board, all the levels just got changed, or everybody just got quieter for some reason.
Right.
So all the levels changed, and now you thought you did all of your homework, but in the first 30 seconds of getting your audio recording, the levels were changed, and now you have a blown out feed.
That is the life of being in pro audio, isn't it?
You're fighting this blown out signal, this overdriven signal that happens because that sound person's job is to make that room sound good, not to make your recording sound good.
Right.
I was in this magical live event at the Beethoven the other day, or not the Beethoven, the Belvedere, and the sound person there, I wish I could remember his name right now.
Is that,
shout out.
That's a really big, loud room there, man.
It is. It's a big room, but it's a really beautiful setting. It's for this bossa nova music, and that sound person had a tech with them, and the tech was wearing headphones, monitoring the signal out of my recorder, and I just wanted to cry. Like I was like,
"Did you give him $50?
I should have given him $50. I gave him the most heartfelt thank you of my life. It meant so much to me.
I've never seen anybody do that before.
I had never seen it until that day.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
If you guys are just tuning in, this is Matt Kelly from Human Being Productions, and we're talking about getting good audio, good video, what your priorities are, and what things cost if you're in different types of bands and different goals. All right, so let me move on kind of from the live thing here.
Yeah.
A lot of bands I see these days when they're doing promo, and we'll get on to original music and music videos kind of in a second, but when they're doing promo, maybe it's for a lot of the reasons that we just talked about, they'll cut live footage in and then not use any of that live audio and then just have a separate audio track that maybe they record in the studio or whatever, and they're like sort of synced, they're kind of close, but is that just like a great way to not really worry about having to capture that audio and have it not be perfect? Because I see a lot of bands doing that. Is it just a lot cheaper and more efficient to do that?
No, it's actually like the least efficient and most expensive thing.
See?
And it's
didn't know that.
It is the wrong thing to do.
I love it.
It
Educate
is the
us.
wrong thing to do.
Tell us.
First off, if you are if you're a band that performs live and you're trying to sell people on the fact that you are a live performing band,
You want to capture what you do on stage.
if you have to cover up, like if you have to put in your album track, that's not you being live anymore.
Yeah.
So now that's a music video, and now what you're presenting to them is not genuine,
Yeah.
and by it not being genuine, you've lost the value of it in regards to selling yourself. The way it goes is you try to get the good sound. If the sound doesn't work out, you have to do another gig.
Yeah.
And you have to get
And that's the
sound.
hard truth.
And that's the hard truth because I don't care how consistent you think your drummer and bass player are, how
They're not that tight.
no. I don't care how many times you've sang your song, your vibrato fluctuates.
Yeah.
You know, the room you're in changes, the mood you're in that day changes. I mean, and those little inconsistencies they get rid of the suspension of disbelief, or they do this. You know, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You realize you're watching something that isn't real anymore, and now that's what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And so you just have to do it right live. And a live recording that sounds like the band is playing well, but it just sounds live,
Yeah.
is going to take you further if you're trying to sell yourself as a live performing band.
Well, and so that's the thing. But I think it's hard for people, especially if they don't have the gear, because a lot of these bands, you know, they've invested most of their time, money, and energy in getting the gear they need, you know, all their stage setup, and not pro audio and video stuff.
Yeah.
And so if you do have something big coming up and you want to hire a company like you, I mean, what does it really cost people?
So
Because I know it's an open-ended question. How many different cameras? How many people are you bringing?
Right.
You know, whatever. But I mean,
but like, what are realistic numbers for like doing a thing?
yeah,
like,
because I feel like we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
You know, where it's a lot like when people go to get web design done, or anything where it's somewhat abstract, and like you talk to some people and you're like, oh, that cost $5,000. You talk to some people and it's like, that cost $500, and there doesn't really seem to be a clear, concise, reasonable range that everybody can talk the same language.
Well, yeah. Well, it's definitely still a people business, and everybody's coming from a different place, and everybody has different expectations and whatnot. But the simplest answer I can give you right now is to have a live event wherein it sounds good, it looks good, it's multiple cameras, and it's all switched, like the angles are switched up and whatnot. That is something that very easily goes for like $350 an hour, and that's one person with a second camera / assistant.
Right.
They're cutting it at the event.
So you're doing live cuts.
We're doing live cuts.
So basically, you have two stationary cameras, one mobile.
Well, we'll have 3 stationary cameras even.
Okay.
We have 3. No, we have 3 stationary cameras on tripods essentially.
Right.
And those all go into one big switcher that is then brought into a computer, and from that switcher we send one signal to it's called an Atomos Ninja recorder, which basically it's this monitor that records directly to a hard drive. And then
so whatever you switch to gets switched.
So the live switching. So what we're doing is we're eliminating the need for post-production by switching in the event.
Yeah.
That saves us time, and that saves the client money, because because before you could do that at the lower price point that we're talking about right now. Because prior to like the new technology that we have, the number what I would say is like $2,000 an hour. You know what I mean? Because you're bringing a truck in and
5 people.
Yeah, so it's crazy. But oh no, I'm losing my train of thought.
So you're saying $350 an hour is a general rule of thumb if you're getting 3 stationary cameras and audio from the board for a live event.
Yeah. And that live event could be a band. That live event could be a fashion show. That live
See,
event
that's a
could
really
be
reasonable
It could be
price.
a press release.
Right. It doesn't have to be just exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah. No. It is a very reasonable price. But here in this context, we're talking in a world where the idea of a $500 music video exists, you know, and whatnot. So yeah, you gotta, it's gonna cost your time or your money. Yeah, $350 an hour. But like if it's like you have an hour set, like consider that like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, because the hour starts
they're setting
like,
up. Yeah,
when you get there, tear down, and then you gotta make sure it's all right, save it, and deliverable.
Yeah, it's from the arrival of the venue to leaving.
All right,
but you can get good. You can get good stuff that way, and by just doing it right that way the first time, like people spend so much time and money trying to do things like trying to like shortcut this process.
Dude.
And then what a project will end up taking a year instead of a week, and costing more money and time than you ever would have spent had you just done it in the front.
I completely agree. And in the grand scheme of things, like if you got a big gig or something, if you can spend $1,000 in that neighborhood-ish to capture that and have it be done right, and you know it's right, and you're not setting up, you know, your iPhone on the side of the stage and having it fall down, and you know, getting the audio come out crap from the board, and or not, you know, having the connections with the local people to talk to the audio guy beforehand. To me, that's not that much of investment, considering like just buying, like if your band runs screens on stage, that costs way more than that. Yeah. You know, your new amp costs more than that. Everything costs more than that.
Yeah, and you know,
but video and good audio, like that package, that's what you ship out to people these days.
Right. That's all they're gonna. That's all they're gonna see.
That and the social proof that comes along with it.
Right. And don't forget that the people that are watching this are the same as you, and think about how long you watch a video before you decide whether or not you're going to keep watching it.
Yeah.
Think about what it takes for you to stay captivated. Like try to separate yourself from this being your project, your band, and really go like, is this interesting?
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with, at least from, I'm imagining from the live capturing perspective, knowing when to switch the different angles. You know, so like you keep people engaged. So like if you just have the one shot, you know, you're playing the bar and you have a 6-minute video and it's just one camera showing right ahead, that is not nearly as compelling for something that every 15, 20 seconds gives you a new reason to be engaged.
Yeah, but I would say it's important to have your cuts be motivated.
Right, go to the guitar solo when there's a guitar solo.
Yeah, because I will say there are times where
it gets too artsy.
No, I was gonna say there are times where one camera placed well does an excellent job. That doesn't even have to move. If the people in the scenery move, and the people in the shot move, and if you can kind of see all the elements of like crowd, band, venue, and that story is all told, and it's you guys performing a great song, like that's more powerful than something that has cameras that are like so tight on the band that when you cut it, you kind of lose a sense of space.
Yeah.
You know, because you still want to hang on to your sense of space. Like you still want to, even in these little things that you're doing, like tell these little stories. Like, what's this story? Oh, it's that the guitar player noticed the drummer, and now they're having eye contact and they're doing their own thing. Like that's a story. You know, and then they break away, beginning, middle, and end. You know, so like you try and find as many of those things as possible to motivate the cuts that you're making. But yeah, a more dynamic shoot generally takes you further. You know, with the exception of having like those really excellent single take things.
Sure.
You know, of an incredible vocalist and one wide shot.
Yeah, we'll keep
like
you
one tight on an incredible vocalist and one wide shot, and you just crossfading between the two is all you need if you know, if you're at a piano bar. You know. Yeah. And that would be beautiful. Friends of mine who, you know, perform in or have auditioned for like Cirque du Soleil, like it's their audition tapes, it's a requirement that they be one take, but it's still for Cirque du Soleil. Right. So in that video, what they're watching for is that you actually hit all the notes, you know, that you know, your composure while you're performing, and then also whether or not you have any like flair to yourself, as you know. Yeah. So it's know your audience too. Like that's the big
100%.
thing.
All right, cool. So if you guys are just tuning in, Matt Kelly, Human Being Productions, runs a local production company here in Baltimore. And so we just went over if you're a band, you're trying to capture live stuff. The other two things that people generally want to do is the music video thing, and lastly, the small content, the micro content, the every other day stuff, or just the stuff to keep people interested on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, whatever.
Right.
So let's talk about music video stuff too. Before we go into that.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's kind of the same thing. If you have a cool venue, if they hire a company like yours, you basically still have to bring out all the same stuff as it would for a live recording, right?
Yeah.
It's essentially all the same thing.
Yeah. And
now, if they don't have a venue, what do venues typically cost? And I know you have your own studio downtown. What extra expenses or things might not people think about if they're trying to get a really good music video, something that's heavily produced, that's not live, and just what to expect, what it costs, that type of stuff?
Well, specifically in
our area,
in our area,
it's what we know.
Yeah, in our area, say you need a studio with a 20-foot wall in the backdrop with scrims, or say you need a green screen. Say you need.
Do people still want to use green screens?
Oh yeah. Yeah. People still want to use, but it's again, you don't use it just because you want to use it. You use it because it's cheaper than the practical, and it wouldn't necessarily make your finished product suffer.
Yeah.
But big studios around here, you're gonna spend about $1,000 a day just to get in there.
Is that 8 hours?
Like 10 hours, 8 hours to 10 hours. That does and at that point you haven't even rented a light yet. That's just to get in the room.
Right.
So we've had shoots where we've had to make like 20-foot tall set pieces before, and that's at that point.
Well, that's different.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I was getting at.
But music videos, that people have big ideas, and just so if you have an idea of know that if your idea is large in scale, it will generally be large in cost for just fitting it into a space.
Well, but I wanted to keep it just focused on if you're live, you're not bringing lights, you're not bringing any of the staging, you're not doing whatever. So it's pretty much just that kind of hourly rate, and you're not paying for the venue. If you're doing a video, unless you have a spot and you have lights and have the staging,
right? Unless there's already a grid,
you got to pay for all that stuff.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm trying to give people an idea of how much more that is, and what's kind of like the cheapest you can do it, and what's kind of like the average that you recommend, that you see work well for people.
So if we're talking about an individual artist, like just one person with a guitar, you can totally get away with like a $200 light kit on the internet, and it'll be LED panels, it'll be super light, and it'll last you for a very long time. But if you're like a full band and you really need everything to look great, you're gonna start renting more lights. And so there's Sirius Grip and Electric is a company in town that rents studio lights. There's somebody we use often. There's also a website called borrowlenses.com that rents out equipment a lot. Also a company called
cameras and stuff.
For cameras and stuff, Charm Cine is a local company that does this as well. And what's great about the local companies is you call them, you can just run down there and grab it, which Borrow Lenses is really good for getting you equipment quick.
Like same day, you call them, go get it.
Well, so Borrow Lenses, if you order it on Monday, you can get it by Tuesday if you do it in the morning, or you'll get it by Wednesday if it's not in the morning. But yeah, for these local people, you can say, oh crap, I need that today, and you run over and grab it and come back. Both everybody's kind of just out. A lot of people are just just south of the city, you know, which is very convenient. But yeah, lighting gets expensive too. You know, some of your smaller lights might only be some of your smaller tungsten lights might only be like $20 to rent for a day.
Yeah.
But the bigger they get, the more expensive they get. And if you're like a 5-piece band,
it depends on the size of the room.
You're probably gonna spend a few $100s on lights, unless you know somebody that already has it.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, okay, so let's say they're spending $1,000 a day for a venue if they don't have a venue, or you know, something like that. If they hire your company, you guys have lights.
Yeah.
How much extra do you charge to bring all that stuff too?
So we're kind of,
Or do you go and have
we're
to
kind of
rent
bad at that.
depending on?
If we have to rent additional equipment, we will pass those costs over. But as far as us billing more, we don't typically, there isn't like a specific markup for the lights.
No, I'm not saying there's a specific markup. I just didn't know if like, so like let's say you give, the price is say $350 an hour. Is that basically just you bring whatever gear you need?
$350 an hour. Oh, $350 an hour is essentially just the cameras and the switcher.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's just the camera and the switcher.
Right, but let's say you're bringing lights and you're bringing backdrops and all this other stuff. I don't know what all the options are.
At that point, I'm hiring a subcontractor who does live events.
Gotcha.
And they'll have what the pipe and drape,
right.
And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of venues beyond like people that advertise themselves as live event venues. I mean, there are schools with stages and grids and lights and stuff too.
Sure.
Like you swing it that way. If you can, but yeah, if it doesn't have, we would have to rent lights on top of that for like a live performance. So that would be like a few $100s. We don't mark that up.
Yeah, no, why would you?
Yeah.
No, what about sound wise? If let's say you're a band that doesn't have, like, you want to make a great music video and everything, you don't have the board and all the mics and all that, you probably have to subcontract that out too, just for the shoot. Unless you have a lot of that stuff.
Well, no. So we have.
What if you have like a 12-piece band coming in?
Well, we have. So that's the beautiful thing about us being a team is I have school-educated audio engineers that is part of why they're on our team, is that they know how to operate boards and they
Awesome.
record bands and whatnot. So I have some people that I send to do documentaries and then to do like short documentary highlight videos, and then I have other people that we send to do these live performances because they have the more experience in one place or another. But yeah, at a certain point, so if you're a 5-piece band and you're like, we need this live thing, one of the conversations we have is who's responsible for your audio, because if it isn't you and your sound person that you've already been doing all this planning with, then it is another, it's not one of the camera people, it's a person who is the audio person who is
because the audio is that important.
And that person is billed between $100 and $150 an hour because the audio is that important, because the people that don't screw up the audio are worth that much. Yeah,
well, I mean, I think we all kind of agree. If you watch stuff on the internet or whatever, I mean, you kind of forgive video that's the lighting's not good or shaky or whatever, but no one really forgives crap audio.
No, because
it's pretty much like, especially when you're talking about a band.
Right.
It's almost like people will sit there and squint and watch the video if the audio is good, but if the audio is crap, like, it's just next.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so that's the biggest thing is, I mean, even just right now, I know that we're going out on YouTube with these lavalier mics.
Yeah, I want to check and see if we have any questions up here in a second. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was saying, well, these lavalier mics are just like leaps and bounds better than the microphone that's coming out on the phone on Facebook because of the isolation that's taking place. And with that isolation,
hopefully, I'm not seeing any red clipping.
Yeah, but with that with the isolation, that pulls you in. Like you're not hearing something in a room, meaning like in your mind you're hearing something that's over there. Whether or not you're looking right at it, it's a thing that's mentally over there.
Yeah,
where
makes sense.
if the vocals are right on you, then it's like you and I are having this conversation to each
other.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Again, if you guys are just tuning in, it's Matt Kelly from Human Being Productions, does audio video production work here in Baltimore, and has done all my stuff for Guitargate. And he's my brother-in-law.
It's true.
And I love you.
I love you too.
Lastly, let's talk about the DIY people.
Okay.
So let's say you don't have that budget, or you're working towards that, and or you just need micro content. You need 2 to 3 things a week to post on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Mm-hmm. Where do people start if they have absolutely no budget? And then what are like the basic, easy steps you can make to start increasing that without investing in all the cameras and all the stuff that they would hire someone like you to do?
Yeah. Well, obviously, you can start with your phone.
Yeah.
If you
I
have
do so much with my phone.
if you have a smartphone, you can use your smartphone, and that will take you very far. You got to remember that if you're doing this like small content, chances are somebody's watching it on a laptop or a
Or their phone.
themselves.
Yeah.
So at that point, know that your phone is capturing an image that is bigger and more detailed than what you're seeing on your screen.
Yeah.
Okay, because your screen's so small. So to that end, like, you know, you don't need to bring like, you don't need to bring the big guns for something like live like just little short clips.
Right.
I think the thing that's important at that point is just do the trial and error to figure out like, oh, this is what my amp setting should be if I'm here, so that I don't, like, you don't ever want to like be like, oh, the speaking levels are perfect, but the amp just gets, is overdriven. Practice that, find that, and then try to stay in that lane.
Yeah.
That's one thing you can do. But also for like $20, you have microphones that plug in to these phones. I mean,
like right into the jack, like lavs, or just like you talking about regular little.
They're lavalier microphones that are like $20, but they have a jack, a headphone jack, and it goes right into your phone. Which, P.S., is what you have on like a lot of your headphones these days. You already have the microphone. It's not. Journalists all over the world reporting for international news organizations are all broadcasting with their little Apple headphones and on the laptop. It's the content you're putting out there that matters.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what if you're going to do something like put content on the internet. It is worth doing right. It is worth doing well. But first, make sure that the content that you're creating is something people actually want. And something we've noticed in respect to success in building audiences is it's not that exciting to hear someone talk about themselves. But if you are a person who is passionate about something that is then talking about this thing that you are passionate about, that is what people tend to gravitate towards.
That's good advice.
Mm-hmm. So my album is going to be awesome. You need to come check this shit out. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Yeah. You obviously, selling your music is very important. Selling whatever it is that you're selling is very important. But generally, if you can tie that into something bigger than yourself, you will get a bigger audience.
Dude, that's great advice.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, how about this? Let me look and see if we have any questions on here.
Okay.
And then if there's anything you want to add, we can. The only thing I would add to that is that if you're using your phone and you have just like a $20 mic, I found that the best investment I ever made dollar for dollar were lights.
Yeah. Oh,
like because your camera, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay, but I'm assuming, the reason that the iPhone video looks absolutely outstanding outside but crap in my basement is just because the actual sensor, the light, is so small that like that bigger camera with the bigger lens, it doesn't nearly look as saturated as my iPhone. But when I'm outside, it's great. And so I found that if you just have an iPhone and really good lights, it looks just like a DSLR.
Yeah. Yeah,
but the lighting I feel is extra crucial on the smartphone.
The more light, to a degree, the more light you have, the less demand you're putting on your camera's sensor to be good. So if it's really low light, then you have to bump what's called your ISO to make the sensor sensitive enough to receive the images, the light that's coming into it, that's hitting it. By properly lighting yourself, now it's just like your regular iris in your eye. Now that iris is closing up, and so now it's like a denser. There's more. We have more information
going in.
It's not making the sensor work so hard.
Yeah.
To capture it. You're just giving it exactly what it needs. But yeah, actually, could you can you turn a light off here right now just to show that? Because like it's a huge difference. Yeah. So I mean, now this is really interesting mood lighting, but as if we were to continue to turn the lights off, this would progressively get flatter and what's called noisier, which is all that like picks the grain stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was kind
of
talking
about. And the noise.
Yeah.
And so the more light you have, the less noise you'll have, and the better your image will be. Now that being said, if you get too bright for your camera, then it becomes blown out, which is where everything's totally white. So in this image, the guitar behind us, the yellow guitar on that, the veneer's making it blown out,
right?
Because it's just reflecting the light directly. Right. So if I were to pull this camera, if I were to pull this image into an editing software, and I was to try to make it darker, at a certain point, this would just turn into some outline that's white because there's nothing but white in that data right there. You know, if you go to the yellow part here, there's reds, there's yellows, you know, there's even a little bit of green in there. You go to the blue, you know, there's you know, it's still multiple colors creating these tones. You lose all of that when you're overlit.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Tell you what, grab your laptop real quick.
Okay. I forgot to let it be charged a bunch, but.
All right, well, let's just see if you see anything interesting on Facebook. I'm sure there'll be some questions on YouTube.
Hello, Ivan. Hello, Wayne. Oh, Aunt Jennifer's watching.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, pop over to
Hi,
YouTube.
Aunt Jennifer.
Hi, Aunt Jennifer.
YouTube, okay.
Top chat, anything there? Any questions?
Wow. Hey, who is he? Hello, love the channel. Great content. Thank you for all your helpful resources.
All right, so no questions.
That's okay.
Anything else you would like to add before we call it a day? Any advice, tips, tricks? What do you have? Anything?
Yes. Getting excited about the idea of a video is very powerful, and it's good, and it's a good thing, and you should get excited. But having the foresight to do the pre-planning and to think about contingencies and to plan for a couple mistakes, plan for a few people to be unprepared, like plan for things to not go the way that you want them to.
Especially with your bass player.
Especially. Don't plan for the perfect shoot, plan for a hurricane. And if you do that, if you do that and you keep a cool, don't freak out. And if you have a cool head, you'll realize that it's probably a bad cable or that you just didn't hit a button.
Okay. Bring redundancies.
Bring redundancies, absolutely.
Batteries and cables forever.
For days. Yes.
Awesome.
Gaff tape.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. This, again, is my brother-in-law, Matt Kelly, from Human Being Productions. You can click the link in the description. Check him out. If you're in the Baltimore area, honestly, even though you're my brother-in-law, I wouldn't hire you guys if you weren't great.
Thank you.
And you guys are great.
Well, thank you.
And so he's done all my stuff for GuitarGate. If you guys are in the area and you want live stuff, you want photo shoots, you want to do music videos, what else do you guys do basically everything, right?
Yeah, we do. So we'll do weddings, but then I'll also do like 3D mapping for like construction companies with the drone. So we fly drones, we do live stream, multi-camera, highlight videos, movies.
Everything.
Yeah, we do everything. We do everything.
Well, Matt's the man, and I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, brother. And guys, hit the link in the description. Again, if you're in the Baltimore area, if you're a band, you need any audio, video work, and it's outside of the scope of the gear you have or the knowledge of how to do it, give him a call. He'll set you up.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.